call to order the
September 8th, 2017.
meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Members present are Tony Teeters, Christy Hastings, Russ Buchanan, Michael Mirko, Robert Burford, and Mike King is not with us today. And of course, we have our chair, Gary Edelbrock. Staff members today, Kat Moody, Historic Preservation Specialist. I'm Darla Eastman, I'm Administrative Specialist. We may have Councilman Shishka, he may come in today. This is an open public hearing and is being videotaped and tape recorded by the city. The proceedings are being televised and representatives of the public media, local cable, and or radio stations may be also rebroadcast. The number of commission members present today is 6. It will require 4 votes for a majority. All parties wishing to be heard on an issue are required to raise their hands and be recognized by the chairman prior to speaking. Speakers will be expected to state their name, address for the record so that they may know who is speaking, be able to contact them at a later date if necessary. Please turn off any cell phones or electronic devices if you haven't already done so. Please sign the attendance roster before leaving the meeting. Thank you. The first item up on our regular agenda is the approval of the minutes for the August 11th, 2017 meeting.
Have you all had the opportunity to read the minutes? Anyone want to make any additions, corrections, or changes? We will then have a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
Thank you.
Motion's been made and seconded. All who are in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
It passes 6-0.
Next up, agenda item number 2, HP 17008, 230 South Mount Vernon Avenue. Historic Preservation District number 13, Southeast Prescott. Request approval for fence demolition and rebuild. And Ms. Kat Moody will be discussing this item.
Good morning. I'm just trying to get this photo so it will show up a little better here. As indicated, this is a request at 230 South Mount Vernon, and this is the view of the home right now from the front. This property, this commission has seen 2 other items on this property in the last several years. The first item that came before this commission was a remodel of the carriage house in the rear. That work has been completed. And then the second item was a restoration of this main house, and that work is still underway. You may recall that this house originally was a wood-sided house, and this is a close-up view of the front condition. And this is a shot that shows some of the restoration that's being taken place where the brick that's non-original to this house is being removed. When we first documented this house in the 1982 inventory of the district, it was still a wood-sided house. So this brick was added between 1982 and 1992. At the same time, or in that same period, the brick fence you see here in the front, these brick columns, and let me give you a shot down the front property. These brick columns with the iron fence were added as well as part of the brick renovation to this property. And the owners are trying to restore this home to its original condition so that it can be listed back in the National Register. It got delisted because of the brick facade changes back in 1992. It's really fairly intact other than that veneer of brick. The interior is largely original and the floor plan is mostly the same. So the owners are working to restore this so it can be relisted in the National Register. And they've provided this shot here that documents what the house looked like originally. And by 1992, this little balustrade up here on the top of the roof had also been removed, but that wasn't enough to, deem the house not eligible for the register. Their intention is to restore, remove the brick and steel fence and then restore a fence that's in keeping with this historic pattern you see here. And the fence will be placed, this is an existing fence on the north side, so they're looking to remove the brick and iron fence here and here, where it's located, and then restore the wood fence, which will be a wood picket fence with painted white, as you can see in the photo that they've provided. And we do have the owner here, William Kelly, to answer any questions. And with that, I'll turn it over to you all for discussion.
Mr. Kelly, would you come up to the podium, please?
Councilman.
Please identify yourself all over.
I'd like to announce that Councilman Shiska has entered the room, as well as Planning Manager George Worley.
My name is William Kelly, and me and my wife bought this place and want to make it back to its original. And it's awesome. Did the back. The back looks good. Of course, every time I look out the back, my house now in the back, all I see is Fred Sanford. So, so I'm just going along, and we're plugging along to restore this home. So I appreciate the attention.
Do any of the commission members have questions for the applicant, Mr. Kelly?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mike Marco. What's your timeline? Do you have one?
I would say in the next couple weeks, we are planning to start the addition in the back. We're doing an addition in the back, which is going to go out about 18 feet. And
that was work approved by this
yes,
commission?
we've already, it took about a year through the council, not council, but the front, to get it approved and everything. And so we just got it, but I've been working out of town, so it's been about 5-6 months since it's been approved, but I have time, so I'm going to start and fur it in for right now, the back. It's going to take more time, money, so I would want it done within the next year. That's my goal. If everything goes right and I have lots of money from God. Bring it. Other than that, it might take a little longer, but I think everything's going as planned, other than the year that it took to get the plans right. So.
I have one question. So the fence has a board along the bottom, I assume, or maybe?
Yes, it looks like, we don't know exactly, but I think it looks like a 2x10 that it's been, or some kind of, maybe it could even be plywood. I don't know, but I don't think it is. We're going to put something like a nice sheet of something. Yes, sir.
There is a perfect example of this fence already on Mount Vernon. The Davis, Jeff Davis's home.
Okay.
I'm not certain of the
That's
address.
on North Mount Vernon.
It's north
on the
between
west
Willis and
side of
Sheldon.
the street.
Oh, it is?
On the
Yeah.
west side, if you want to go look
Oh,
at it.
wow.
It's
And where is that again? Where?
It's
Mount
between,
Vernon,
Mount
same
Vernon,
street,
same street,
cross Gurley,
cross Gurley,
and it's just down the block on the
About the
west side.
fourth house down.
about
Yeah.
the fourth house.
And it's
down.
almost
On the west
identical
side.
to that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because
it's
We were
painted
wondering
green with yellow trim, I believe,
Okay.
so.
Great.
Cute Victorian.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I was going to say that might be, the commission might consider that being an optional
Oh, on the bottom?
member, just because of up against dirt. I don't know if dirt's at the back side of it. It looks
It
fairly
looks up a little bit.
level through there, so.
Yeah.
May have to be pressure treated and then painted. And,
Oh, yeah.
An option to offer an option away from
Right.
wood.
Maybe take the
On the
pickets.
bottom you're talking about, on the bottom part.
Yeah, or
Right.
maybe take the pickets all the way down, or, I don't
We
know.
do have
I
little
just see
dogs,
it
so we
that
want to have
possibly
something.
being
My wife wants something to, yeah. So we'll figure it out. That would be
I
great.
suggest you go look at the one
Yeah.
on
Yes,
Mount
sir.
Vernon, because it's,
Exactly like that.
it's almost identical.
Okay, yeah, we'll pressure treat
I
it or
think the
whatever we have to
pickets
do.
are even, but it's pretty much
Similar.
that fence. Yep.
Mr. Davis is a very nice man. If you knocked on his front door and told him your quandary, I'm sure he'd be glad to just
I might do that.
I think if there is a dirt against the backside, it doesn't really matter. I just had one
Great.
slight concern.
Thank you.
I have a question. It's sort of a historic question about that fence itself, that style. It looks sort of kind of modern to me. Like, it seems like in the 90s I did see this type style sort of crop up. It isn't really very.
Well, there was a fair variation in picket height, and there's patterns where it's the alternate like this. There's also a scalloped pattern or just a straight cut. So we see variations on this theme, throughout our districts.
I see.
A lot of times, this alternating height was expressed more in wrought iron or steel than in wood, but the pattern was there.
I see.
Any further discussion or questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve HP 17008.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Please signify your vote by raising your right hand if you vote to approve.
Aye.
Aye. It passes 6-0. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is HP 17-0011, 240 South Mount Vernon. Request approval for privacy fence extension in the side yard. Ms. Moody?
Yes, today's our day for South Mount Vernon. So this is just 2 doors up the street on the same side. This is at 240 South Mount Vernon, and this is a request for fencing. Let's see if I can get my pointer. This is a request for fencing along this south side of the property. This house has a garage in the back, and there's an existing privacy fence that runs from here to here, and I'll show you a picture of that in just a moment. And the owner would like to extend that privacy fence up to this point here, which is a run of about 48 feet of privacy fence. The privacy fence in the back looks like this currently. And this is a shot of where that privacy fence that's existing in the far back transitions into lattice. And you can see the lattice is in pretty poor shape. This is a close-up of that lattice. This also shows the deteriorating retaining wall that I'd mentioned in your staff memos. And so this retaining wall is leaning far in, and then the lattice is on top of that. And as you move further forward, you head into the wire and wood fence that's in very poor shape. And so the owner's intention is to take that privacy fence forward to replace those failing areas. As part of that, the retaining wall will be reconstructed, so it is proper. And then the fence will be, the privacy fence would be placed on top of that to a point that's about 10 feet shy of the front of the house, which is well within the allotted setback requirements. And with that, and we do have the owner, Amy Casper, here, so with that, I'll turn it over to you all.
Would you step forward? Please identify yourself and your street address.
Good morning, I'm Amy Casper, and the address is 240 South Mount Vernon.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Ms. Casper.
Ms. Casper's fine.
Any questions?
This won't be seen from the road.
No, that's
I
correct,
didn't
sir.
think so.
Oh, I have a couple. What's the fence material? Maybe I missed it.
It's vinyl.
Okay.
It's
and
that
it
white
look the
vinyl.
same
With the same lattice, yes.
Solid and lattice
Yes.
above.
Yeah, so it'll match this existing.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
There's another example of this on Mount Vernon. Identical.
There is. This particular fence has in the rear yard, side and rear yards, even though it's vinyl, has been approved by this commission all up and down Mount Vernon for, yep.
And I would say, since we've had some issues with neighbors and fences in times gone by on this street, is that so the retaining wall, if it needs a wider footing, it technically needs to be all on your property. So you can do a cantilever footing, or you can, it doesn't look like it's retaining very much.
No.
You might be able to do a wall and footing of the same width, and then that be your property line. It's just a word of advice is all, if not.
I had a structural engineer come and he designed it, and the city has approved
Right.
that part, so, and the contractor has bid on those requirements,
Yeah.
so we're set to
It's just
go.
the relationship of that footing to the
I see.
retaining, to the property
Property
line,
itself.
not the wall.
Okay,
Since that the footing can't be over the property line, maybe that, it might be 4 inches or something on that side of the wall.
okay.
Thank you, that's.
And in fact, that brings up my question in this, this photo, with all the vegetation. Is there a fence, neighbor's fence back there?
The fence along the side is just that low wood and chicken wire.
Well, that
He
one,
ha-
yeah.
he
No,
has
no, what I'm
some
seeing is
kind-
back
yes,
there.
That
Yeah.
black structure
Yes.
comes sideways out of his house
Oh.
and stops.
So that's perpendicular to this.
Oh, I
Correct,
see.
I'm sorry,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
And
I
it's
got it.
solid, there's
Yes.
no gate or anything in it.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to see unless you're really looking for it. So this white fence will hopefully hide all of that.
Hide it, yeah, sure. Seems fine.
Any further questions of the
It
applicant?
certainly is a fence that needs attention.
And my neighbor has no objection, especially since I'm paying for it.
Yes.
Funny how that works.
Yes. But I think it needs to be done, and I think it will help both properties in the future.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
very much. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion. On HP 17-011 to approve the privacy fence at 240 South Mount Vernon.
We have a motion that's been made and seconded. Anyone who would like to vote, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Thank you.
Last item on the agenda is HP 17-012, 348 South Mount Vernon. Request approval for window replacement. Ms. Moody.
A little hard to see the front of this facade in the picture because of the vegetation in front of it. But this is the street view of this property at 348 South Mount Vernon. This is, you can see from the aerial view here, this is the last house on the west side of Mount Vernon before Senator Highway starts heading up the hill. And this is a request for a window replacement. And this is a sketch of the house. And the windows to be replaced are all the windows in the house that are being proposed to be replaced. So there's 2 in the front, there's 2 on the north side, one's being replaced in the west, and then there's these 2 here that flank the fireplace. And the current windows in the house are depicted. I've given you a sample of the photographs provided by the owner. You can see these some of these have storm windows on them. You can see this, the little attachment points for the storm windows. Some of them do not. You can see the sills are fairly, water damaged, and the wood is likely somewhat rotten there. The windows that are being proposed in the house are a all-wood window with a aluminum cladding, which are the windows we often see placed back into these homes along Mount Vernon. The windows are going to be the same type of window, with the exception of the 2 windows beside the fireplace, which, let me give you those. So that's 6 and 7. Yeah, 6 and 7. These are 6 and 7. And so they're proposing to replace these with a slightly shorter window and to do an awning window instead of the double hung here that flank the fireplace. And we do have the property owners here, Don and Laura Herman. They have just recently purchased this house. And with that, I'll turn it over to you all for questions.
Would one of you step forward, please? Please identify yourself.
Good morning, my name is Don Herman. My address is 348 South Mount Vernon.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, concerns from the commission?
A quick question, what is the siding material?
We believe it might be asbestos.
It's a board material, original, or at least?
Underneath, we believe it's like clapboard.
Okay.
And that is something we're definitely gonna look into removing pretty quick.
The only reason I ask is when you replace that window, you'll need a little bit of siding to fill in there to,
So,
if the.
for the side windows where the fireplace
Yeah,
is?
by the fireplace.
So that actually is wood, yeah. So,
This is a wood horizontal,
correct.
yeah.
The rest of the house is asbestos,
Find something that matches that to fill in.
yes.
Yeah.
And that side of the house, I think the fireplace was built later on. And that's all not original to the house. Like the planks they don't match the rest of the house.
Wider.
The windows don't match the rest of the house. They're a little bit smaller. And we had window restoration experts come in and basically tell us that those windows were put in later on. And also, just to throw this out there too, they basically said it wasn't worth restoring the windows, so that's why we're going with doing the renewal.
A toss-up doing a new window, and I appreciate you choosing the wood.
Yeah.
metal-clad windows.
And this house wasn't listed in the National Register at our last inventory because of its age, because it's the last house constructed up there at the top of the hill. So it was constructed in '54, but at this point, it would be eligible for the National Register, and particularly with them placing wood windows in there, then they would be, at next inventory, would be able to get listed in the register and obtain the historic property tax credit for the property.
Great,
So.
great, go for it.
Yeah. Good luck.
Any further questions? Concerns? Thank you, Mr. Hurd.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
It's my turn. I request that we approve HP 17012, approval of window replacements at my neighbor at 348 South Mount Vernon.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. We'll call for the vote. Those who vote in favor, please raise your right hands and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much for being here.
And welcome to the neighborhood.
Next item, update of current events or other items of note.
I have one item just to make you aware of. I am working with a group of people on developing a heritage trail in Prescott. This is a project to develop, it was sort of loosely based off of the Boston Heritage Trail around the historic sites in Boston. And so we're working now for an October launch of a very limited area around the courthouse plaza. The idea with this is that you would go to the Chamber of Commerce, you'd pick up a single page map that would list the sites on the backside, and you'd be able to visit these sites and then come back and get like a button or something to say you had completed the Heritage Trail. And then another additional component of this is a history hunt for children. And the children would be able to go to the sites and answer certain questions, fill out a page to prove they had been to the sites and had seen something there. And then they could come back to the chamber and submit that, and they would be entered into a drawing. And then I think they are looking at maybe a quarterly drawing, and then there would be a scholarship for some kind of history-related activity, educational activity for the kids, the winner of that drawing to receive. And so you can look for that. There's going to be, I think in the Prescott Living magazine, there's going to be an article. So you'll start to see press about this. And like I said, the October date is really a soft launch. And then we're looking at, during Tourism Week, which I believe is in May of 2018, having things a lot more formalized and expanding the scope. We've identified many sites that are outside the downtown area. And the idea is that if you were on a bike, you would be able to visit an area that's much broader in scope and be able to collect those points that are further out. So we're trying to connect our Greenways trail system with these historical sites to present an opportunity as a way for somebody to explore town.
Wonderful. Who's working on that, Kat? Who's sponsoring it?
The chamber is working on it, the communications office here at the city, and myself, and the head of Parks and Rec, and so we're all kind of collaborating.
Anybody from the museum?
The museum is considered, Charlotte Hall is considered a stakeholder, so all the museums will be contacted and brought in as stakeholders to the project, yes. And of course, Charlotte Hall is one of the stops on the Heritage Trail.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Little
Very
conflict of
convenient.
interest there.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Any updates on any of their projects that we've approved?
Not that I can think of that where there's.
We lost our photographer, Mr. Betke.
Yes, we did, and that is something we'll have to look at maybe in towards the end of the year, because we generally like to do those reviews in January. So keep in mind that I will be asking for one of you to step up and be willing to go visit all the sites that have been approved since our last review, and then we'll have a slideshow of all the work that has been completed that has been approved to date.
Thank you very much. Anything further?
Nope.
Then we shall adjourn.